Hip hop is a sport, and sometimes you gotta give a post-game interview, even if it's months after. Kendrick Lamar just broke his silence and has finally given an interview talking about Not Like Us, talking about the Drake beef, and it's with SZA. Oh, TDE is hip hop is a sport. Link in the pinned comment. We've been waiting for Kendrick to talk. Shout out to my boy Chick Smooth. We reacted to his video about it. Go subscribe to my fellow Nigerians.
You know Chick have everything up there.
Whatever you say.
Chicks, hey, if you want to support his channel, there go to the Cash App right there. This boy be working. Chicks, bro, you on top of it, bro. On God in heaven. Hopefully, I can do what I can to spread awareness of who you are, your videos to my people more. Hopefully, they are going over to your channel and you spreading it. You know what I mean? It's in our blood, baby. It's in our blood, baby.
Lamar is now doing interviews as he sat down with Harpers Bazaar magazine. But obviously, there has to be
the culture been waiting.
Of a wrinkle with everything that Kendrick Lamar does. So this interview, even though it was for this magazine, it was done at the request of Kendrick by SZA. They get into mental health and motivation. And Kendrick says his actions are not motivated by anger, but understands that love and war both deserve to be acknowledged. Not that they represent him, but he acknowledges that they both need to exist in the world.
And this is why I like Kendrick Lamar. This is, if you followed me, if you know me, you know my favorites is artists who are both righteous and ratchet. You could righteous and ratchet is really just my well, Charlemagne was the first person I ever heard say it, and I thought it was a clever way of just saying the duality of life, right? Good and bad, evil and good, hungry and full. The duality of life. Life is an experience. So I don't like the people who like only talk about the peace. That gets corny. Or only talks about war. That gets corny. He's saying life in this world is a series of love and war, and you must acknowledge both. And that's why when he's battle time, this nigga's able to turn into a creature of the night because he knows that.
Of course, he would be asked about Drake and Not Like
Us. I love that. I love that.
Give his definition of what it means to him. What's up, y'all? It's your man Talkless World reporting for the Chick Smooth
channel.
Shout
out to Talkless World.
We gotta talk about this.
He been working
didn't
too.
Waste any time. As soon as they sat down, she starts off saying, I want to ask you about your mental health. Do you feel like you suffer from mental illness or experience it ever? Or do you just feel like you're in a multitude of feelings and you're not putting a label on it? Kendrick would say, I grew up with that term. I was hearing it when I was 5 or 6 years old. So you identify with it, but not as it. Then he says, my whole thing is, it's all experience. I say some shit on a record and identify with a moment, and then I don't identify with it anymore. That's just growth for me. All that shit is subjective. Then SZA says, it's giving self-therapy, which Kendrick replies, I think it's going back to my inner child, right? I was trying to understand myself, trying to find people I could relate to, how to identify myself outside myself. It sounds crazy to a lot of people. I really can see myself out of my body. When I do that, I have no judgment towards it. It's too many eyes on me to not remove myself. That shit is scary to anybody else.
See, and that's another thing too that I think like the reason, if you're a Kendrick Lamar fan, right? I think what some of the worst stands are trying to do, Drake stands, and I meant to say if you're a Kendrick Lamar fan, I didn't mean to say stand. I don't know if I even said stand, but I was next. Though some of the things where I tell some of the Drake stands, what's not gonna work, right, of trying to attack Kendrick's character or who he is as a person, it's gonna be very hard to do that. Because as a Kendrick Lamar fan, or somebody who's able to listen to music even subjectively, even if you listen to, or objectively, I can never understand. I always confuse those. If you listen to Mr. Morale and stuff like that, you realize that the appeal of Kendrick is not that he's perfect, it's that he's flawed. And he acknowledges that. The reason why it's hard to beat Kendrick in a battle is not just because he's quiet and reserved and he doesn't need to show his face a bunch and potentially make mistakes. Some of Drake's worst mistakes happen just because of his hyper awareness and always being around. If Drake took breaks, some of the stuff that he did that Kendrick used or people used would not have happened, right? So trying to go, see, Kendrick did something bad is not going to work for somebody who's been listening to Kendrick since Section 80 or Good Kid, Mad City. That's the point. I am a good kid. And the whole point of Kendrick is duality. A good kid in a mad city. Section 80. Now, I don't know what the 80 stands for, but if you know what Section 8 is, it's like that's his whole point. So you're never going to tear his character down by being like, he did something bad this time. Yeah, that's the point. He has a whole music video where it's about basically toxic relationships, and he's playing the role as a toxic boyfriend and saying this is how I was. So it's like, yeah.
Too many eyes on me to not remove myself. That shit is scary to anybody else. Which SZA focuses on and asks, are you scared? And he would say, no, because I've learned that I can't identify with my performances on stage. I can't hold my true whole identity to that person who's on stage.
Facts.
Because if I did, that means I would judge every movement, every time I mess up a lyric, every time I'm off key. It's too much to deal with. So I have to have a distance between the performer and the person I close my eyes and look at the ceiling with. Damn. I had to develop that tough skin at like 16 or 17 years old, not knowing it was not only for my career, but for myself. It's mentally ill for sure. And then the conversation gets a little more spiritual.
It's mentally ill. Nigga's still rapping. The battle's over, Kendrick. Stop rapping. Stop dropping. No, don't stop rapping. Don't stop. I'm just kidding. The battle. The nigga said that's mentally ill. Like they're talking about mental illness, but that's also ill. Like that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like the reason Kendrick won this, and in the eyes of the majority of people, and the eyes of the culture, and the eyes of even outside the culture, the reason why it's pretty much unanimous that Kendrick won this is not just because he won in the songs. It's because this man understands war. He knows he's handled everything pre-battle. The battle, niggas who think the battle is just a song, you're gonna lose. He handled the pre-battle right. He handled the battle right and the post-battle right. This is all post-battle. So it's
before asking about God, SZA asks, have you done ayahuasca? And Kendrick says no, which she then replies to surprise, saying, what? I wonder how you're arriving at all these conclusions. I want to talk to you about your spiritual practices. How many spiritual practices contribute to your day-to-day? And he says, all day, every
They should have
day.
filmed this.
She says,
they didn't film this?
All day is ceremony? And Kendrick gets personal, saying, ain't no BS, ain't no cliche, but I literally talk to God. Like, it's to a point where I'll be starting to think I'm going crazy. But then he has to remind me, no, this is really me. Well,
you might have been going a little crazy too, but that's why I said, niggas, leave this man alone, bro. He on a personal journey and he ready to kill, he ready to do whatever, including kill, to get to the end of that journey. Facts, nigga.
Well, if that's true, and he does talk to God every day, how was Drake ever gonna win a rap battle against God? Drake said 20 versus 1, but I guess he missed a very important person. But
y'all don't remember when he, in the middle of this stuff, is asking God for forgiveness and even don't let the party die? Like, nigga, you not gonna lose with a nigga. Also, what I feel like is Kendrick has clearly off their Mr. Morale. I clearly said that man went to therapy. That's basically what Mr. Morale is. And it's very, basically, rap battles is going to be a lot harder if you don't know who you are or you're insecure. It's going to hit a lot harder. Kendrick was good at finding Drake's insecurities and pushing them, and just kept pushing them. And I think it was a little unfair because he came in with the equipped with self-awareness. I think that's what it was. That therapy ain't a joke, I guess.
Kendrick will continue. My early morning practice is that I have to run. When I started running, that's where I started to understand. There was this threshold of pain in the spirituality for me. I remember my shins was aching and I was like, I got 1 mile to go. Then I get whispers and downloads and start talking about shit that I want to know about. And next thing I'm 3 miles in, 4 miles in. I wake up and do it every day. She says, loss of self, you have to break yourself. And he replied, I have to. And then SZA would try to dig.
I swear this nigga talks like an evil villain. This nigga talks like to lose yourself, you have to break yourself. I have to.
Deeper into his internal
this man is
creative
sick
and spiritual practices. As she says, I'm grateful for the God T. Sidebar, what do you feel like
God
your top
T.
3
Oh,
contributing
T.
factors to self-transformation in the last few years have been. And he says, the power of honesty and being honest with myself, perspective about the person sitting across from me, and learning that vulnerability is not a weakness. That last one probably been one I'm still developing. To that, SZA will ask which one was the most difficult, and Kendrick will talk about his childhood and how there is no growth without vulnerability. He says the last one was most difficult.
Doesn't it just feel like this year's TDE, and Kendrick isn't in TDE anymore, but he's still a part of the family. He still helps them. He still works with them. And if he requested SZA to do this, like, yeah, that's what it is. And I love seeing it because whether it's Kendrick shouting out Doechii and saying she the hardest rapper out right now, whether it's him doing interview and asking SZA to do it, so this moment, because this moment is going to be a giant moment. Kendrick knew it, and he said, "Let me get my sister here. Let SZA be the one who interviews me because this is going to blow up. Everybody's going to be talking about it. Let me get SZA a little bit of shine too. Why not? Why not?" Absol just dropped. Schoolboy just dropped. I'm waiting for J-Roll. I'm waiting for it's one of them years, bro.
She says, "Why?" And he replies, "We talk about our childhood. I hate going back to that. It's traumatizing. My pops, he was tough. He was militant. As far as every day, you are expected to go to work, take care of your family, get back up to do it all over again.
Yeah.
Being a man type shit, right? And he never showed no weakness. He never showed any emotion that could garner a one-up from the person sitting across from him. And I learned to experience that, not knowing I had them same traits, right? But for what I do, there is certainly no growth without vulnerability. If I understood the power of vulnerability earlier, I could have had more depth and more reach to the guys that was around me in the neighborhood coming up. You know, our parents, they never had these outlets to express themselves the way they wanted to. I've always looked at us as somewhat of a beacon of hope for them. I've always wanted to know, how does your mom feel about your self-expression?
Yeah, this literally just feels like a nigga who's gone through therapy. He's talking like it. As somebody who's known people who've gone through therapy, I've never done it myself, but he's talking. My mom, that's what so yeah, this sounds like someone who's been through therapy. You know what I mean? My mom would sit down and talk to people like this. And I remember my mom was studying and the segment, she was reading Freud books and stuff like that. This is what my mom literally did, like growing up. You know what I mean? So
he would
not growing up, but like
SZA would give a story about how her mom grew up and how SZA was able to give her mom freedom
counseling.
through her music. And Kendrick said, "You did give her freedom." And SZA says, "And she gave it to me." But she would turn that right into, "When was the last time you cried?"
Damn, SZA going in deep.
Cried. And Kendrick would say, "I would say the last time I cried was probably on Mr. Morale on the Mother I Sober record. It was deep for me." SZA would ask, "Would you say you've done more crying recently than you have in your life?" He said, "Now? Yeah, I have to." She said, "It's cleansing." And he would reply, "It might be easier for you though," which SZA replies to,
"It's crazy because ever since I had a kid too, I cry more now too. And low key, it feels better. It feels better. Growing up, you know, you got to be tough. You got to, I'm a black man in America. Ain't no such a thing as walking around crying. Anybody give a so, but once I had a kid, I realized how toxic that is. And boy, I cry all the, y'all see me. If y'all been watching me my whole career, you can't tell me this ain't been my most, the last year or some change ain't been my most cry years, nigga. You show me a picture of a kid happy in a music video, boy, I gotta fight. And it's not even tears of sadness, it's tears of happiness.
"I cry all the time. I'm gonna cry right now because that's just beautiful." Wait, you didn't tell me. What was the first time that you allowed it to happen? Which then Kendrick says, "The first time I allowed it to happen is documented, on stage. In 2011 when Dre and Snoop and the whole West Coast was out. And they was like, this is the torch that we were handing off. Dre passed me the torch and a burst of energy just came out and I had to let it flow. My tears is all on the internet. And now I look back and I love that moment. I love that happened
Great hip-hop
because
moment.
It showed me in real time expressing myself and seeing all the work that I put forth actually come to life in that moment. And for those of you who don't remember, here is that moment.
Nigga, you got the torch, nigga.
This is a legendary moment in hip-hop. Suge Knight at the Source Awards is a legendary moment in hip-hop. That fight at that golf game with Nate Dogg, I think it was Death Row and Bad Boy, it might have been, but Method Man and them was there, historical moment. Valletta Wallace and the Phoenix Shakur coming out the MTV VMAs after Pac and Biggie died, with Lil Kim was out there with the Biddy out, a historic moment. This is one of them. This is one of them. When the West Coast crowned the new king of the West, they haven't done that since. It's still Kendrick. This is beautiful.
You better run with it, nigga, because it's yours.
And I feel like this should happen there should be a representative like this of each coast. There needs to be a New York nigga like this. Yes. Fire. That's corrupt, nigga. The game, nigga. Even though the game kind of switched up on him, but real nigga. That's real thug tears, nigga. That's gangster, nigga. You supposed to cry, nigga. You can feel it, right?
Then after a couple more questions, she would
dope.
get right into the real
nice
questions
edit.
that we
Nice
all want
edit.
to know. Can I ask you a hyper masculine question?
I'm gonna keep it real. Before we even get into the not like us part, I can see niggas gonna think I'm crazy, but I can see Kendrick eventually forgiving Drake. I could even see. I mean, he literally said it in Euphoria. It's like, nigga, as long as he actually kind of maintained through the battle that as long as Drake don't do this, and this, it's all friendly. You know, it's all blessed. I still want the best for you. So I can literally see Kendrick be like, nah, I'm not mad at Drake. I can literally see that. Drake now? I don't know, nigga. I don't think Drake ever gonna forgive this nigga. Because Kendrick can do that because everybody got him winning. So it's like, oh yeah, we friends, I don't care. Drake gonna want his lick back before anything else. I feel that.
You can also tell me to shut the F up. What does not like us mean to you? He would laugh and say, not like us? Not like us is the energy of who I am, the type of man I represent. Now, if you identify with the man that I represent, SZA will cut him off saying, break that man down for me.
Not like
and Kendrick
us.
will say,
break it.
this man has morals, he has values, he believes in something, he stands on something, he's not pandering.
And that's also a shot at Drake. Because, I mean, obviously it's a shot at Drake. They're talking about the Drake diss song. So he's basically saying, like, the reason Drake is not like us, if you have morals, if you have values, if you believe in something, if you stand on something, if you're not pandering, that's the us. That's the culture. That's what the culture was supposed to be. That's what hip-hop. Now, is it a little unfair to say Drake doesn't have morals, values, believes in something, and stands on something? Maybe. If you're not having... Now, I could see the pandering, because pandering is more about marketing and oh, this is my fan, so I'm gonna tap dance a little for them, which makes sense. Pandering could also be called if Coca-Cola knows that Cherry Coke sells more, they're going to lean in Cherry Coke. Hey, y'all want Cherry Coke? Here's more Cherry Coke. Cherry Coke shirts. Cherry Coke. That's just how it works. It's pandering, but it's like he's just saying that that's what he believes in. So yeah.
He's a man who can recognize his mistakes and not be afraid to share the mistakes, and can dig deep down into the fear-based ideologies or experiences to be able to express them without feeling like he's less of a man. If I'm thinking of not like us, I'm thinking of me and whoever identifies with that. SZA says, now, can I say something else in that realm? Or you want me to get away from that? Can I ask you something else?
SZA was scared. SZA was like, I don't know. I want to ask. You know what I want to ask, but I don't know.
He asked, is it mean? She says, no, it's more like, I thought it was really interesting that there was any consensus at all that you might be an angry individual. For me, I don't find that any energy that comes from you comes from an angry place. And actually, the last hour and change pretty much solidifies that it's almost from a monk-like place. So when you feel the surge of energy in records like that, where is the root? Is it anger? And he would say, I don't believe I'm an angry person, but I do believe in love and war. And I believe they both need.
It's always been about, this ain't about who the best. It's always been about love and hate. Now let me say I'm the biggest hater. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you. This is all stuff that he said. I think he's just breaking it down. This was what I knew Not Like Us was stood for. This is what, if you understand the culture, if you understand lyrics, you know that's just what you're saying. But I love the giving people all this time to analyze it on some hip. Then you come through and say, this is what I meant from it. Same things like interviewing a director of a movie. What did you mean from this scene right here? That's basically what it is. Inside the theater, inside the actor studio, basically.
Need to exist. And my awareness of that allows me to react to things but not identify with them as who I am.
He's
just
basically
allowing
breaking down
them
why
to
he won.
exist and allowing them to flow through me. That's what I believe. And SZA says, I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead before I say something crazy. Do you think SZA did a great job? When she's done doing music, is being an interviewer or having a podcast something that you would want to see in her future?
If SZA had a podcast, that shit would go crazy. SZA got fans. SZA got fans. Nigga. And you know she gonna have she gonna have Lizzo on that bit. She gonna have Summer Walker on that bit. Yeah. But she cooking and music. I don't see why you can't do both if she wants to. If she doesn't, then hey.
Let me know in the comment section. But her doing well here does not mean she would not have any backlash, as someone would say. So let me get this straight. SZA, who was on For All the Dogs twice, 2 times, and known Drake for 10 years personally, interviewing Dot, her former label mate, about the PDF trafficking song. And she just didn't know his sick-ass behavior the entire time? Do you agree with this? What do you think about the situation? Do you think more artists should do written...
I don't even understand that shot. What? Nigga? Why do y'all niggas act like... So you felt the same way about everybody you've ever met in your life always? Nigga? What does knowing Drake... If she knew Drake, what you think he was... Anyway. So what you think he was out here doing that instead of... Oh, SZA's coming. All right. Pull all the little, bring all the kids through. SZA coming. So, you know, like, what? This is a great interview. I love that little section. I love how he broke it down. I love the classic old school written. I wanted it to be video, but Kendrick Lamar's like on some cultural hip hop. Nah, you're going to read this. You're not going to look at me. You're not going to talk about how I'm dressed. You're not going to talk about this, that. You're going to read what I'm saying, and you're going to see it. Facts. Hey, we ready for the album to drop. Good job, SZA. TDE Takeover is going down. I think I'm going live tomorrow. We're going to talk about this, about what Drake's been doing. What a great year to be a hip-hop fan.